Hey, what's going on, everybody? Just really quick before I dive into the actual podcast, I want to let you know towards the halfway point of this video, I'm going to be talking about a topic about influencers and my personal opinions about that. So there's a timestamp somewhere on the videos somewhere that's going to let you know where things are going on. So check down there and it'll help you jump around as you navigate to the topics. I'll see ya. Did Sony just drop a new Sony Alpha 8S? Or are we all just lying to ourselves about the fact that April Fools and the 1st of April and a lot of cringy camera jokes tend to happen? But we could fun. We take a look at it on this Not Monday live show. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. It is Monday Not Live. Welcome to my podcast for this evening. Jason's out and about right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a direct on-demand podcast for you. It's more of a listening experience, not something that's going to have a lot of visual aid, although I will show some images, I guess, that's being shown about some news stories. So I will do that. But for the most part, you can listen in and on a drive, maybe you're working. That's what this is all about. I wanted to go ahead and put a video together for you just so you got something to listen to on your Monday evening. Hope you all are having a great April 1st. I'm sure you're having a blast with all of the good and the bad in terms of news that's going around right now. But we're going to go ahead and just talk a little bit about maybe some new gear on my end, as well as what I've been up to, and then we'll jump into some of the topics for this evening. It's going to be a mixed bag of things. I really don't know. I'm kind of just going off the cuff here because, well, I'm kind of on my own for this evening. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So as far as new gear, and by the way, you're more than welcome to let me know down in the comments if you did pick up any new gear in the past couple weeks or so. But I haven't got any of the new gear that I purchased just quite yet. But I will say that I went ahead and ordered 5 10 terabyte network attached storage drives. And then they're Seagates. And then as well as a direct attached storage Thunderbolt drive from TerraMaster. Now, I've already owned one, and it does pretty good in terms of speeds. I usually connect it to this Gigabyte Aero 15 laptop that I have here. It does really well. I'm able to access my files very quickly, transfer my files, so I've been very happy with it. But I wanted to go ahead and just invest some money into getting additional storage. Now, in the past, I've typically stored most of my data on Drobos. I have like 3 Drobos. But I retired one of the older ones, and I've just been using 2 Drobo 5Cs, and then I have my TerraMaster Thunderbolt. And so I've been using that for my storage solutions for the most part. And then usually, this video isn't about storage, but typically what I will do with regards to storage is just keep a backup of my most pertinent files and duplicate it somewhere else. So if I shoot an event or I shoot something, a paid gig or wedding or something for that matter, I will usually try and make a duplicate copy onto another drive and have that drive in a different location like at work, just so that there is no chance of me losing a copy of one of those files. But I don't have the best backup solution process there. I would love to be able to do some more online backup, but unfortunately, I just don't have the internet speeds to support that. So typically what I'll do is I'll have a copy of my raw files on my storage drives, and then I will pick out my best photos and then edit them, export the JPEGs, and upload a copy to SmugMug. And for me personally, if I were to lose a lot of my raw files or whatever, it's not the end of the world really. It's not that big of a deal for me. So that particular workflow is good right now. But anyway, point being, I did invest in some storage. I typically try to do this every year or every other year just so that I can meet the demands of additional storage. I used to kind of live life on the edge with regards to storage, just using those Western Digital drives that are standalones. I'll do like 2 terabytes, 4 terabytes, or even those pocket drives, those passport drives. And I had one a few years back, and I used to have it. I don't know if you've seen. I've had it attached to the back of my laptop, and then I have a drive attached to it. I use Velcro, and one day I just accidentally snapped it. Like I accidentally hit it, and the drive fell, got destroyed. And I tried I tried with some effort to find a replacement board so I can get the data off of it, because the board itself and the port got damaged. And it wasn't your typical 2.5-inch drive, by the way. I mean, I could have just used the USB connector or SATA connector and got it out, but it wasn't your typical drive. So I was trying to get a similar identical model, but I couldn't find one anymore. And so I kind of gave up on that. But after that time frame, I started getting a little more serious about storage. And although my storage setup that I'm trying to do right now is a bit expensive, I'm fine with dropping additional money just so that I have the speed, be able to access the data at 500 to 800 megabytes per second in terms of speed and transfer speeds. I'd rather have that. So let me know in the comments down below what might be your current storage solution or what you're aiming to do with that. In terms of other things that are happening right now, in terms of purchases, man, I am really getting close to getting a 400 2.8 maybe from Sony. It might happen at some point, but I might back up on it. I did a pre-order with Robert's Camera store. It's not like an official pre-order where you pre-order it and as soon as it ships you pay for it. It's more, I think what they're saying is that you just put your name on a waiting list, and once it comes in, then they'll ask you if you want to make the purchase. So I'm close to making the decision to do it, but the problem is a lot of the sporting events that I shoot at this time of the year don't really require a 400 2.8. And I'd probably just wait until the fall season to pick one up anyway, because of the football season that comes around later on. So that's probably not in sort of the realm of possibility at this moment. But man, I'm really itching for 400 2.8. With that said, talking about that particular sports and stuff, trying out the new Sony A9 firmware version 5. It's taken a little bit of getting used to in terms of getting the hang of how it sort of works. I was actually having a hard time the first day I had on the A9 shooting baseball and softball. I had issues of it hanging or tracking the subject as well as I wanted to, but I finally got the hang of it and kind of got the flow of it. Something I noticed is that the focusing, similar to what I saw in the A6400, is that the focusing is very sticky. So it really does a good job of just sticking to the subject and just staying on them. But something I was noticing, and again, something I'm still testing, is I didn't really find I'm talking specifically about the autofocusing system, the new tracking system, to be like a world's difference. I think it's a good update, but with regards to just shooting baseball and softball, I didn't really find it that much more major improvement in terms of, hey, this is better than what it was before. I felt that I was just fine with the system it had already, which was incredible. So definitely want to go ahead and shoot more with it and get a better feel for it. I did try my Sigma 120 to 300, so I used an adapted lens using the MC11 adapter. So for those of you that do have that, it does work. Again, it still knocks it down to about 10 frames per second. I was shooting with it, and it worked okay. I was shooting softball, and for the most part, it worked. It had a little bit of quirks here and there. It definitely didn't lock in focus as much as a native lens. But hey, unless you want to drop 12 grand on a 400 2.8, the 120 to 300 f2.8 from Sigma does work. And with the new autofocusing system, it does also work. You get the new tracking system, and it does transfer over to the MC11 and to the 120 to 300. So you are going to get the updated autofocusing system working with your A9. Again, not going to give you the same performance as a native lens, but it works. It works. And in terms of whether or not it's better than what it was before, I can't really say for sure, but it does hit when it does. But there were times when I missed. It just didn't lock focus quick enough. So that could be a bit of an issue for some of you who are shooting a little more, more pro-oriented work, especially in sports photography. I would avoid it probably. All right. So that is some stuff I wanted to mention. But as far as the news topics goes this evening, we have a handful of things. We have a lot of April Fool stuff going on, so I do want to talk a little bit about that. I know some of you might have caught wind, I think, with Jared Pollin's video the evening about the Sony a7S III. I knew it was April 1st, but at the same time, I kind of saw it, and I was like, man, it'd be cool if it was real. But obviously, it wasn't. So let me just go ahead and jump to that really quick here. Let me go ahead and find it. And we'll take a look here. So I'm just going to jump straight to that part where Jared kind of sets up the video. Basically, it's an A7S III. shoots 8K video, which is insane. Bion's X processor, or Bion X processor, 36 megapixels. So in other words, this camera inherited a lot of the Sony A9 feature specs, which I think would be amazing. A global shutter, 14 FPS electrical, and 8 mechanical on terms of the shutter. I mean, that's insane. I think what's really hilarious, I think they even say that they started using CFast or CFast Express cards on there, which I didn't see that happening at all. You're getting your 6-axis image stabilization, which is an improvement over the 5, I believe. And then 2 CFast Express card slots on there. What else? Viewfinder update. And for the most part, I love the April Fool stuff. It's just fun to kind of play around with it. This one was definitely out there, in terms of what it had to offer. I've seen some other ones where they say that it was going to offer 6K video at 24p and then 4K at 120 FPS. Those would seem a little more believable, but going all the way to 8K, I doubt it. I don't think we're going to see anything like that. At most, we're just going to see 4K 60p would be what the goal of the Sony a7S III. And also, like I said, I do anticipate the a7S III having a flippy screen. That's kind of my guess right now in terms of that. But with all of these different announcements going on, sometimes I'm not even sure what's real or what's not real. Let's take a look at this other one that was posted on Sony Alpha Rumors. It is the Sony Alpha 8S. It looks like an A9 body for those of you that are just chiming in. And some of the key headlines in this little pamphlet is that it says, sees darkness turn to light. Has a new dual-shift ultra-sensitive high-resolution UHSR sensor that's capable of increasing the light sensitivity to a staggering native ISO of 3.2 million at a resolution of 10K for video and 12K for photo. It's incredible. There's more stuff there that's kind of difficult to read. It's saying it's going to have 20 stops of dynamic range, which I think it's a little out there. Cinematic quality video for the masses. Let's see here. They're talking about using UHS 3 SD card slots. I don't even think that even exists at this time. And ability to capture 10K raw video and 4K raw at speeds of up to 480 FPS. Obviously, these things are all just April Fools. There's nothing real here. So, Alpha 8S, 97.2 megapixels, 6 FPS, ISO 3.2 million. Holy smokes. I mean, I'm already astounded by the quality that the A7R III gives, and I'm sure those of you that are watching this that shoot with a Nikon or something like that shoot 40 plus megapixels, the incredible detail you get out of those sensors is phenomenal. And just imagine going all the way to 100 megapixels. Now, I haven't shot medium format, so I don't know how that world looks like, but I'm sure those of you that do shoot in that world the amount of detail and pixels you get must be amazing. If you love pixel peeping. So that is the Sony Alpha 8S. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive into a little bit more real world discussion of some things that are actually happening. And I hope it's not an April Fool's joke, but I feel like it might be just because of what I'm seeing right now. So let's take a look at this. Let me jump into this next story here. So if you haven't heard, it seems as though Canon is releasing a camera, or they have a patent for a quad pixel. So this is coming in from Petapixel. I am a little worried because it's showing up around March 28th. It's not April Fool's, but it appears that Canon is developing a quad pixel autofocus sensor to follow up from its dual pixel autofocus. And I agree that the dual pixel system is really good. What's strange is that there are some people who still think that the dual pixel autofocus is king, that it is the top of the line, that it's number one, that it's the best. I would say that it is up there, but I have to give a lot of credit to Sony. Sony's autofocusing system does really well as long as you clamp down the settings. Some people might get really erratic behavior. It also depends on your lenses. But for the most part, the autofocusing in video is pretty darn good with the Sony as well. I would say it's close, and with the new 6400 update, the 6400 camera with its autofocusing, it's probably even better. So with that said, I think it's smart that Canon is looking to innovate on their dual pixel and upgrading the quad pixel. But for those of you that are really confused, and I'm also confused in terms of how it works, so there's this little quote here. It looks like it came from Canon News. Right now, Canon is doing a dual pixel autofocus sensor, as Canon News writes. But if you ever try to use an EOS R or an EOS M in landscape orientation to focus on a horizontal line, effectively a line that goes like this, you will quickly realize that the phase detect sensors just go in one direction and have little sensitivity in the other 90 degrees offset direction. So I mean, are they saying like this kind of cross section there? So it looks like they want to help improve that. And I mean, anything that they can do to improve the autofocusing mechanism for the video would be fantastic. So there's some patent drawings on here, some sketches of how it's going to work. I'm not too keen on what it's going to end up doing, but just know that Canon is not sitting idly with their autofocusing. It looks like they are looking to do some big things. So they're not, just kind of twiddling their thumbs. And I know majority of you are watching this are in the Sony camp. I think, not gonna lie, I think Canon is going full steam. Nikon is going full steam. They're really hitting the mirrorless segment pretty hard. We're seeing third party also make lenses for those mounts. And speaking of these parties, we also have Panasonic. Now, I just thought this was very interesting. So, the Panasonic S1, I was looking at some video reviews of people who've been testing it out and using it, and I found some very interesting things in terms of that I didn't know, right? The camera has 4K 60p, it has 1080p up to 180 frames per second, which is really great. But what I didn't know, that at high frame rate modes, the Panasonic S1, for this example, locks the camera down to auto exposure. So if you wanted to shoot something in high frame rate, you wouldn't be able to adjust the exposure manually on your own. The camera has to do the deciding for you, which I found very, very strange. Extremely strange. So I really do hope that they're able to work that out, that it's not just them preventing you from changing it, but more likely that it's a settings thing and that they can update it in a firmware. Keeping the top of the line with the Panasonic camera, we now also have a Sigma mount, the converter for the MC21. I actually was very excited about this, and I don't know about you, but ever since I ventured into the Sony territory, I have had some Sigma glass, and I'm sure some of you do. And for example, I was talking about the Sigma 120 and 300. I was always concerned about being able to move my lenses around to different lens or camera manufacturers based on my needs. I didn't want to be tied down to, let's say, Sony is the only camera manufacturer I want to use, or just Canon. But we are getting a Canon EF to L mount. I think that's what the mount's going to be called. So an EF to L mount that's going to allow you to use your Sigma EF lenses. In this case, I would imagine your EF glass, and use it on an L mount camera, which is fantastic. So in this case, the Panasonic S1 would be able to take this particular mount, and you can just migrate your Sigma glass over. It started to make me think really, a little bit, and I don't know if you're the only one that thinks about this, is the ability to pick up and move on to another group. Sigma makes some really great glass, and there's an appeal to it. Lower cost than the first party. And if you get the EF mounts, there's adapters that allow you to jump around. So if we're seeing one for the L mount, I don't know if we're going to see one for the EOS R mount, or if we're going to see one for the Nikon mount, but it's good forward thinking to be able to jump around as you need to. Now, however, there is a caveat as I was reading a little further into this, so it's not all, rainbows and unicorns, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, price-wise, this adapter that's coming around, it's going to retail for, I don't know, I think the the Sigma version is cheaper at $169, but I think the Canon EF version, as shown in the article, is going to be about $249. So it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be actually it's about the price you'd expect. Now the problem is that the MC21 is only going to allow you autofocus in photos. It will not give you autofocus in video, unfortunately. So if you're familiar with adapting lenses today, you can take a Sigma EF lens, use the MC11, and get video autofocusing with that lens, which for the most part works fairly well in most cases. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. But what we're seeing is, but what was explained is that you are not going to get video autofocus with it, which is a shame. It is a shame, and it reduces the flexibility. However, if you don't shoot video, you're primarily a photographer, and you're just going to manually focus your video, hey, I think this is a great option. I think we're discounting the fact that there's probably folks that don't mind video using manual focusing for their video needs. So it's going to give a little bit more life to the Panasonic S1 and hopefully help pull people into the system a little bit easier that want to try out the camera system. They can bring in their EF glass and make the transition. And that was what Sony did. They had the Metabone, well, they didn't make the Metabones adapter, but there was the Metabones adapter and then the Sigma MC11 adapter, which made migrating into the Sony camp easier. And then eventually when Sony had their first-party lenses, people were able to migrate slowly into that field. But unfortunately, we're just not going to get that video autofocus. So you're only going to get AFS for stills, apparently. So you're not even going to get AF continuous. So that kind of sucks. And what's really strange is we are aware that there's supposed to be an alliance around the L mount, that you're going to be able to mount these particular lenses on L series glass or L series cameras like the Panasonic, Leica, and then also Sigma, which will eventually release their own L mount cameras, which I'm very curious to see what they end up doing. But it seems as if you can't even use the MC21 mount on a Leica camera. It will not work, apparently. Now, it could just be a firmware update in the future, but it's strange that the converter will not work on a Leica camera that has the L mount. So I don't know if it's just Leica trying to protect their brand and preventing you from using their cameras, and they want you to use their Leica glass. But it seems to be very interesting that this alliance isn't as strong as it could be. But I get it, maybe. I'm sure, I feel as if Leica, I know, positions themselves at kind of at a higher end based on their costs in general in terms of bodies and lenses. And so this is just probably one way of circumventing people from putting maybe lower quality glass or cheaper glass on their very, very expensive camera bodies. So let me know your thoughts on that. And what I'm curious is whether or not you personally were interested in actually going into this system at some point and checking it out, because it did pique my interest. The Panasonic system, I think it's specs wise, it's very interesting. But because I would personally like to see a chunky mirrorless body. I do still like the DSLR bodies, and I'm fine with the Sony A7 series bodies. I'm used to it at this point, but I really do miss the DSLR size camera bodies, and this Panasonic S1 definitely kind of fits that particular realm, but it does suck in that sense. All right. So those are some of the news topics that I wanted to cover. There's some news topics about the Canon EOS R getting external RAW recording, potentially for similar to the Canon C200 RAW Lite. I still think Canon needs to really step it up. So they're going to follow the likes of Nikon, which is offering, I think, 4K at 10-bit external HDMI. So I think it makes sense that Canon is going to offer something similar to that. So hopefully Canon moves in that direction. Whenever these manufacturers are doing these things, giving their consumers more features, it's a benefit to all of us to push other manufacturers, and I stand by that. The last topic I want to go over with you is a topic that's being discussed here and there. It's becoming a growing issue. I mean, I would say it's going to start becoming an issue, and it has to do with influencers. I know I didn't even mention I was going to talk about this, but I wanted to go ahead and give my spiel about this whole thing, about what influencers are, and my personal opinion about it. As you know already, like I said, I don't do the YouTube stuff full time. It's not something I do. I don't depend on it. It's not something that, if I stop doing YouTube, it'd be the end of the world for me. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but on the contrary, for other folks, it's what they do. The YouTube is sort of a funnel. It helps them earn revenue through different sources of income, whether it's affiliates or sponsorships or revenue through ad revenues through YouTube itself, or other ways to make money, either selling their own products, LUTs, packs, whatever. I would say, because right now the biggest issue that's going on right now, or the discussion, is that can you trust the people that are giving you information through these YouTube videos? Are they giving you accurate information, or are they being paid out by companies? Is there a conflict of interest? And so I wanted to cross this and talk about it with some caution, because I know Tony Northrup and Chelsea Northrup have talked about it. I know even Camera Conspiracies joked about it. I don't know if Matt Granger's going to be talking about it either. But I wanted to talk more about it in sort of the realistic sense to give people a perspective, because I think there is this disconnect between myself. Like, I'm on this side of the camera, for example. You're on the opposite side. When you see me, you see the videos that I do, you see the gear that I have, you create a perception of who I might be. If you meet me in person, and some of you have met me in person, you kind of know who I am. And I think the reason why we do the live shows, Jason and I would do the live shows, is so that you could get a little better idea of who we are personally as personalities, besides just kind of how we frame our videos. We're actual human beings too. And I know that you guys have had a chance, for those of you that had a chance to meet us, that we're just like normal people. We're just human beings. If we want to talk, we can talk. We can chat. But, there's more to it sometimes. And so I just want to be careful as far as how I explain this, and maybe just kind of break this out a little more. So the issue right now is, do I trust the people that are talking to me over the internet through YouTube? Even for your sake, like, do you trust that one camera guy, or whoever you like watching on YouTube? So I want to say this right in terms of what I see. I think for the most part, the majority of all these YouTubers that are in this tech sphere, and by the way, it's not even just tech, it's beyond this. There's YouTubers in all different sectors that have some sort of corporate relationship or some sort of influence, that I think they're trying to do a good thing. I don't think anyone is specifically going out there and trying to give you bad information. I don't think there's anyone specifically trying to give you, trying to mislead you in a way. But it is good to be cautious about the information that you get and make sure you understand what's happening on the other side. So one example, I want to give you a concrete example, was that event that I was invited to test out the Alpha 6400. I was invited out with other content creators. Again, I was very thankful that I was invited out to that because of the prior situations I've had with Sony. I never thought I would ever get a chance to go ahead and try it out, and I was very thankful for that. And like I said, I do like the fact that Sony is doing a good job with trying to get creators to mingle with each other and talk, and then also do those B-Alpha events to encourage people to pursue their creative side and get them to test out their products and put them in situations where they can use it. I get all that. That's all marketing. I mean, to be 100%, it's all marketing. But something that I noticed, okay, and I say this out of love. I mean, I want to be careful how I say it. But it's like, when we went to that event, when it was a Catalina event, we were not told to make a video. They didn't ask us to make any sort. I wasn't asked to make a video. We were just invited out to try out the A6400. But here's the thing. We were invited out as content creators, people that make YouTube videos, to test out a new camera that most people have not had access to. As a YouTube creator or someone that makes videos, what do you think the majority of people are going to do? So if you are invited out, all of these things are paid. The food, the travel, the expenses, your lodging was paid for. You go out to those events. You are instinctively, because of what you do as a career, you are going to make a video. Because why in the world would you go out there and spend 2 days or whatever out of your schedule to go out to an event and then not make and produce a video? That'd be very, very strange and a big waste of your time. So Sony positioned it in a very interesting way where they said, well, look, let's just invite all these people out, set up an event, test out the new camera. They're going to make a video on the camera. That was sort of it's weird because it wasn't said specifically. It's not said directly, but more than likely we're all going to make a video. And like I said, I chose not to make one because I wanted to get my own copy. So I waited till my copy I personally purchased came in to start talking about the camera because I didn't want that bias to interfere with what I had to say. I'm not saying either that the people that went out to the events and talked about the camera were saying lies. They're just doing their things. They're trying to show and tell. But I think this is where the contrast happens. There's a difference between a review and then show and tell. What I'm seeing more is influencers are doing more show and tell than it is reviews. So just make sure you understand the difference. And I don't know if people can see that sometimes, that there's a very big contrast between show and tell and review. Reviews are typically more critical, more testing is involved, versus show and tell might be you saw the camera for a few days and that was it. Here's where things get dicey. And this is happening with all industries, actually, I think. Not just the camera, tech, or whatever. It happens in gaming or movies. Let's say, for example, you got the camera. You were at the event, and you gave a pretty bad review of the camera. Let's say you got it, and you said, you know what? There's some aspects of this camera that just suck. They're not very good. And you had nothing positive to say about it. Sony sees it. Would Sony be willing to invite you out to another event? That is the conflict of interest. Because there's a slight conflict of, do I say X or do I not say Y? Is Sony never going to invite me again to another event? That is the big issue that people need to realize. And so, like I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to make it out as if the content creators out there are bad. I just want you to know, as a viewer, the decisions that people have to make. They're making them subconsciously. So if I wanted to be invited out to another Sony event, I probably don't want to be hypercritical of them. Me just talking about this would be a big bad stamp on ever getting a chance to go ahead and go out to these events again, which I absolutely enjoyed. So it's a big dicey line. And so a lot of folks who took the cameras out, remember, a lot of it is just initial impressions, and they're just showing you the camera. But it's not going to be a full-on review, in my opinion. It's just not going to be. I don't see how it could be. Some people do a good job of showing the pros and cons. But sometimes people omit cons or downplay what a con might be. And you do see it. And it does happen. And that's where the distrust happens with the viewer. And I would say if you're a content creator watching this, that don't forget about the viewers. They're the ones that made you who you are. And that's the reason why I'm always very careful about what I have to say. And I will tell you exactly what I think about the camera and not sugarcoat it. If it's good, it's good. If it sucks, it sucks. And I will tell you from my lens, my perspective. And like I said, I don't care if it's a Sony camera. If the Canon camera is better, I'll say the Canon camera is better. And there's some things I like about Canon. But even for me, talking about bias, I have a bias. I shoot Sony primarily, came from Canon. I have Nikon cameras at school. I have Canon cameras at school that we use. But I don't shoot Nikon day in, day out. I don't shoot Fuji day in, day out. I don't shoot Panasonic. So I can't really tell you a lot about other choices. Does that make it biased? To some degree, yes. But just know, if it just comes to Sony stuff, I'll be as honest as I can and give you the best information that I could. So, finally, this is the one topic I do want to address on top of this. There's folks who think that, folks like myself that do these reviews, they want us to do it out of the kindness of our heart. They want us to do it for free. And I don't know about you, but it's a very difficult job to do. Especially if you're working on a review, I might spend 10, 20 hours collecting data, testing out the product. And then, for example, let's say I test out a zoom lens, I come back, I do the video, and it doesn't get enough views or it doesn't generate enough revenue. That really stings. You know, for example, I could have spent 20 hours on a video. I come back, got 5,000 views, maybe generated about $50 worth of value out of that video, and I spent way more time than I would have. That really stings. You know, especially for a content creator, for the amount of time that you have to give. So, yes, it's great when you have genuine people who test out the equipment and give their first-person perspective. But you have to understand that someone can't do that forever. Maybe when we all first started, when I first started, we're all hyped. We want to go into this. We want to make these amazing videos and not seem as if we're having corporate influence. But then you start producing the videos and you start really realizing like, man, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of energy to produce videos day in and day out and then not get rewarded for your efforts. You want more subscribers. You want to generate more revenue. You want to find other income sources from what you do because it helps you keep going. I make this anecdote about it or analogy. Let's say, for example, you work at a fast food restaurant, and nothing against fast food restaurants, of course, but if you do work in one or have worked in one, if the boss asks you, can you come in and work for an extra 4 hours over on Saturday or something like that, or on a Friday night and not be paid, would you go into the restaurant and work an additional 4 hours for free? I would not. I would not do that. And it's the same thing when you're producing these YouTube videos. Influencers, content creators, YouTubers have to be strategic about how they utilize their time because it's a big investment in time. It's not as if we just sometimes slapstick videos together. We want to spend some time on something and research it. Like I said, I think most folks who are doing the YouTube stuff, the influencer stuff, are doing it with the best interest in mind, but they're trying to find a balance between how do I generate revenue for myself and how do I make a living and put food on the table. There's another topic that happens a lot. There's folks who say, well, they're not professional, so how can I listen to them? Or they don't shoot this stuff day in and day out. Why should I listen to whoever it might be? Because the truth is, most people who are working professional industries don't have time to produce a YouTube channel. And the people who have time to produce a YouTube channel are the actual YouTubers who just happen to test out the product. I think people are trying to find this altruistic person who might do things for the common good, but don't realize the amount of time and energy that it takes to do it. And there's another misconception about these influencers that they live lavish lifestyles, that they're super wealthy, that they're extremely wealthy, for example, that they're making millions of dollars a year. I think it's far from the truth. I think most people that are in my particular industry don't make something in that north of that neighborhood of income. And just realize that it's a constant grind and hustle, and it can get deteriorating or it can wear you down because you're constantly worried about numbers. I remember when I got so into the numbers with doing YouTube that I was constantly checking my analytics, constantly trying to make the next video. I remember that time where I was putting out videos one a day because I thought the algorithm wanted that to happen, got burnt out, and I started slowing down on my production. There's times I got depressed about doing YouTube, didn't want to do it anymore, didn't feel good about what I was promoting or making, or I didn't feel it was best work that I could do. It happened. But people have to realize that the ones who are putting themselves out there are doing it day in and day out. It's a grind. It's a hustle. We're constantly paying attention to numbers. I've tried to step away from that, worrying about the numbers. But like I said, for those people that depend on it as an income, they get stuck on it. And it becomes their focus. The numbers, the social media stuff, the push, the products. And I just hope that the people that are in that particular realm, in that world, remember that the viewer is the one that got them to where they are right now, and not to forget about them and to make sure that they're putting out the best information that they can. But just understand, I hope that the people that are on the other side can at least understand from the perspective of the YouTuber, the content creator, that you can't have like always professionals. So for example, I don't shoot sports photography professionally. I just shoot high school sports. But I have a pretty good feel for how most things are. But I'm not on sidelines of NFL games or Major League Baseball games or whatever. But I've shot in the sports, and I think most people are just amateur enthusiasts that are shooting. The pro sports photographers, well, they're already doing their pro thing. They're already doing the pro sports. They're already doing the professional level of stuff. And it's hard to do both. You can't do both. It's hard to balance out those two things. But anyway, I hope that made sense. Maybe it didn't. Let me know your thoughts about it down in the comments section below. But I finally wanted to go ahead and chime in on this whole influencer. Do I trust these people? Do I trust content creators? Because it's going to be a growing issue going forward. But I just wanted you to know that I think most people are doing it with good in their hearts, with good intentions, that they're trying to produce the best content. But what's important is that you as the individual understand to have a lens over your eyes. There is bias here. There could be bias there, and figure out what's being mentioned is true and not true. Support the people you like. Support the people that are producing good quality content. There's people that are putting a lot of effort into it. Support them. Help them out. And just know that that's the realm. That's what's going on. But don't imagine that people are living these lavish lifestyles. I think people think that, but they're working hard. They're hustling. They're trying to make this into a thing for themselves. So those are my thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this whole influencer world and whatever you want to say about it. We'd love to hear it. But this was a Not Monday Live. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoy these Not Monday Live podcasts. I don't know if there's going to be a live one next week. We'll see. Jason, I think, is out in Japan. He's been busy. But, yeah, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and check out my other content. And with that said, I'm your host, That One Camera Guy. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace.